Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Gabby Cabby talks to Alan Hudson in My Life, My Music.
Well, in the last show, we talked about American Pie, Don McLean track that reminded you of Chelsea when you won the FA Cup. Roll it forward a few years, and Don Revie had a training session when he told you, Tony Curry, Stan Bowles, Frank Worthington and Charlie George that they were no longer in his plans. For me, that is the day that football died. What's your memories of that training session, Al?
Well, in all fairness, I found it because I knew that I was never going to be a regular in his squad, and I was very close to Alan Ball at that time. He was on his way out. I mean, when you think he's won the World Cup and Revie treated him so disrespectfully, if that's the right word, I think it is. So I kind of took it like I do most things in life, with great humour, because I knew around the time that he was looking after all of the boys, the fellas at Leeds, the Trevor Cherries and people like that. He looked after the people where he lives, and he didn't like us in London. And I knew that my head was just on the chopping block. It's just a matter of when he left me out the squad, and I knew it was going to happen to Frank. I knew it was not so much Tony Curry, because Tony Curry wasn't really, although he was a fantastic player, he wasn't really a rebel or a maverick or nothing like that. He was on the field but not off it. Yes. I knew what was, we knew what was coming. In all fairness, Paul, we knew what was at the end of the, you usually say a rainbow. It wasn't a rainbow with Don Revie. It was bleak,
Yeah, but that was for me the day that it died, and then when Don Revie has made and set his stall out, you look at the 1974 World Cup finals that we didn't qualify, but that was through to Alf Ramsey. He then got the sack because we didn't, and really Don Revie, in my opinion, had the greatest bunch of players to work with. So that 1978 World Cup should have been an absolute shoo-in, and it just went so horribly wrong, didn't it?
Well, of course, it was. I think it all started to go wrong. I truly think that there's some things in life that where winning can be not the best thing you ever do. It's not like the Germans and the Dutch and the great teams around, like say on club level Barcelona. They win and they learn from it and they enjoy it. Us winning the World Cup wasn't a great triumph. It actually put us back. When you're winning the World Cups without Jimmy Greaves and much inferior players, and the whole country went mad like they did the other day in the cricket. Everyone goes mad because we've won 3 World Cups in 50 odd years. The whole country goes mad. We haven't got a lot, to cheer about. And I think that Alf winning the World Cup was a bad moment, because he really thought that everything he did was right at that time, and I was one of those people that took the backlash of them winning the World Cup, and what they do is they pick inferior players to you and think they're going to win it again. And they went, in all fairness, they played better in 70 in Mexico than what they did in 66, with magnificent performances by the goalkeeper, magnificent performance from Bobby Moore and the likes of Alan Ball. I thought we were far better, and we were away from home in the extreme heat. And what happened to Bobby Moore? You know, they locked him up, and none of the FA went to see him and all that. It was all just, you know. But Al thought he could get away with all that because he won the World Cup. It's like the Aladdin's cave, in it. But you don't let it go to your head. And my 3-year ban came after that, and I don't know why. I can't say whether it's personal or not, but he shouldn't be doing that. You know, it was really. I never went in front of a committee. I never had any say in it. I spoke to him on the phone, and he said, if you don't turn up at the airport, London airport tomorrow, you'll take the consequences. And I mean, that was no way to treat a young player. And I think that was part of him saying, look, do you know that I've just won the World Cup and you're just a 20-year-old? And I find that I wasn't stupid enough to think, who the hell you think you're talking to, you know, because they won the World Cup. And I don't think, apart from Alan Ball, that, you know, Bobby Charlton was, I wouldn't say he was coming to the end, but I played against Bobby like 2 years later, and I played against him at the end of his career. But people like me and Tony Curry were coming through, and we should have been the future. And he didn't see that. He just, I think it was, in a nutshell, Paul, I think it went to his head, and he thought he could get away with anything, you know.
And then when Alf left, it was like sending in the clowns, wasn't it? And that's a record from Frank Sinatra that you really love. I mean, Frank is your favourite artist. What's the story behind that record, "Send in the Clowns"? Because that's what it appeared like to us fans.
Well, yeah, I think it was when it was "Send in the Clowns." I think not just my opinion, but everybody you speak to. Well, I mean, I spend a lot of time going about, not working, but if I go in a local, I go wherever I go, people pull me up and ask me what went wrong. And it was, they can't even name the players that got in front of us, you know, so it was really a case of sending the clowns.
Isn't it rich? Are we a pair? Me here at last on the ground, you in midair. Send in the clowns. Isn't it bliss? Don't you approve? One who keeps tearing around, one who can't move. Where are the clowns? Send in the clowns. Just when I'd stopped opening doors, finally knowing the one that I wanted was yours, making my entrance again with my usual flair, sure of my lines, no one is there. Don't Don't you love a farce? My fault, I fear. I thought that you'd want what I want. Sorry, my dear. But where are the clowns? Send in the clowns. Don't bother, they're here. Isn't it rich? Isn't it queer? Losing my timing this late in my career. Where are the clowns? There ought to be clowns. Well, maybe next year.
And I have to be very careful because you can't pull names out of the hat and say who they were, but they were just not worthy, really, of getting the amount of caps they got, and it all fell to pieces. And, you know, it reflected on the management of Alf Ramsey. Number one, we wouldn't have won the World Cup in 1966 if it wasn't at Wembley. There's no doubt about that. It's the only World Cup we've ever won. And number two, had we not won it in 1966, we would never have won a World Cup at all. Mm. And he picked a team that was, as I say, I could pick, apart from Bobby Moore, Bobby Charlton, Alan Ball, and the goalkeeper, I could pick a team in England at that time that would have beat them.
Yeah.
You know, and if you look, Argentina won it when Maradona won it on his own. They were a poor Argentinian team. There was a couple of poor teams won it, but I think we were one of the poorest teams that ever won the World Cup.
Now, at a get-together at Wembley, an England training session, you had a visit from John Denver the once, didn't you? And he was dressed up in American football gear for a bit of a promo stunt.
Yeah, he was doing he had a show on obviously it was a John Denver show in America, and I don't know, I think, I don't know if there's anything to do with Richard Attenborough or something like that, because he was a director of our club at that time. But for some reason we went into training ground one day, and he turned up with a crew, and we didn't really take too much notice of it because we just thought, we were just happy-go-lucky bunch, you know. But I was a great John Denver fan, and he turned up and he got into his American football gear. They never asked us to get into it, but we watched it, and he was happy doing what he was doing. And it wasn't until I really see him in a show with Frank Sinatra that I realised how big he was. But he was absolutely superb artist, and again, it was another tragedy, wasn't it?
You fill up my senses like a night in a forest, like the mountains in springtime, like a walk in the rain, like a storm in the desert, like a sleepy blue ocean. You fill up my senses. Come fill me again. Come, let me love you. Let me give my life to you. Let me drown in your laughter. Let me die in your arms. Let me lay down beside you. Let me always be with you. Come, let me love you. Come, love me again.
And was that at Chelsea then, Al, or was that with an England training session?
No, that was a Chelsea training ground. We used to train at Mitcham.
Yeah.
And we come in, and in all fairness, our Mitcham training ground, it wasn't, not many people would have passed a breathalyzer in them days. Not many of our team, anyway. And so everything was a bit of a, who's this? And most of the lads didn't even know he was and all that. But he was terrific. I met him. I can't remember. We didn't have a conversation or nothing like that. And we just see what he was doing. And I mean, in them days, just after the 1970, we won the cup and all that. And he came down and. If I was to ask 99% of our squad at that time, they would have known what the NFL was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I signed in Seattle that I realised how big the game was. But he come out padded up with all the American gear on, and they done this show from our Mission training ground. But as I say, if I'd have been a little bit older, I'd have loved to have, if he'd have hung around, to sit down with him and tell a different story to you.
Because, of course, Annie's song is probably his most famous, and famously, Sheffield United sing the Chip Butty song to it, don't they?
Well, it's just a wonderful song, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's for anyone that I got. One of my best friends in Stoke is married to an Annie, but. It's a great anyone, and I'm married. My second wife was Anne.
Yeah.
But I never played it to her because she weren't really worthy of it. In all fairness, but no, it's a great song, and he just had a marvellous voice as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
He sang to great. As I say, when I see him get up with Sinatra, if Sinatra allows you to sing with him on stage, then you must be decent.
But again, in them days, you did have John Denver. Barry Manilow was very prevalent on our TV screens as well. You got the Morecambe and Wise show, and football players used to have cameo appearances in their shows because, as always, pop stars and entertainers all wanted to be footballers, and our footballers were the entertainers in the 70s, wasn't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was all kind of linked up in one way, it was all I think we might have said on the show before that 2 meetings I've just walked into a couple of shows. One was with Phil Collins and the other one with Jack Jones, and I just see, and both times I walked in they were both standing with Bobby Moore, and I thought we have so much in common. They wanted to Phil Collins just looked at Bobby as if, he was in awe of Bobby, and Jack Jones was just astonished that he was standing there with because the Americans think, wow, you won the World Cup in 1966, but he didn't really know how good Bobby was, but to stand there with Bobby Moore and Jack Jones, and I could watch Bobby Moore on the screen, and then I could put Jack Jones on, and the wonderful talents. Yeah, and you're right. We all lived under the same kind of umbrella,
And a song that reminds you of your first wife, Maureen. And by the way, last Thursday, it would have been your wedding anniversary, wouldn't it?
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah. We actually spoke I think it was the day before or the day after. I didn't really realise it at the time, but there was a post of your wedding up on one of the football sites, 60s and 70s football groups, and I did send it you because Stuart said, I hope Alan's okay with that, because it is a bit of a personal picture, and I said, well, I will send it to Alan and make him aware of it, and I'm sure he will be, because we do talk about those times on our show, My Life, My Music, and the one song that does remind you of the first meeting with Maureen is Frankie Valli song, My Eyes Adored You.
Yeah, it's another classic, isn't it? It was, I remember leaving Stoke and leaving Chelsea for Stoke, and funny enough, and I didn't leave Maureen behind, but she didn't fancy Stoke too much. And I remember that was a song at the time. It was a little bit before, but I remember going in. That was playing a lot, and the most beautiful girl in the world was. So the music then was quite fantastic. But Frankie Valli's version of that song was just astonishing. I always think, if you. Who would you want to be if some people say, who do you want to be if you're a footballer? And people have gone and seen the Jersey Boys and all that, and I've seen the film. Frankie Valli was actually something else, and it was the most beautiful song. And you know me by now. I just love a great love song, and that is a fantastic love song.
My eyes adored you, though I never laid a hand on you. My eyes adored you, like a million miles away from me. You couldn't see how I adored you. So close and yet so far. Carried your books from school, playing make-believe you're married to me. You were 5th grade, I was 6th when we came to be. Walking home every day over Barnacle Bridge and Bay, till we grew into me and you, who went our separate ways. My eyes adored you, oh, I never laid a hand on you. My eyes adored you, like a million miles away from me. You couldn't see how I adored you. So close and yet so far. Headed for city lights, climb the ladder up to fortune and fame. Work my fingers to the bone, made myself a name. Funny, I seem to find that no matter how the years unwind, still I reminisce about the girl I miss and the love I left behind. My eyes adored you, though I never laid a hand on you. My eyes adored you, like a million miles away from me. You couldn't see how I adored you. So close and yet so far.
There is a massive romantic side to you that possibly people don't realise and understand, do they, Alan?
Well, they don't know. They think you're. I think probably being a rebel and the romantic side, they might go hand in hand, or might go hand in glove, because that's the way we are. I mean, Sinatra his songs are so romantic and all that, but he was involved with the mafia. So you think, how can a man like that be involved with the mafia? Yeah, I think it does. There's something that goes hand in glove with that, that you do. I think with that kind of a love affair situation does turn you into a bit of a rebel or whatever, because I am very partial to it. I mean, I wake every morning when I'm writing and whatever I do for an hour in the morning, I put the most lovely songs on, where people are watching what's going on with Brexit. I would rather have Jack Jones or, Frank Sinatra on.
Which is probably a better thing to have on, listening to the rubbish that goes on about Brexit and our politicians.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I'm not one. That's why I've never really done well in life, because I can't stand people that tell, lies or whatever, and politicians, they're all liars. They know that. They know you've got to be a liar, and they even admit it. So we have no time for them. They're not. I mean, when you think our conversations since we've been doing this show, we've always talked about entertainers. Yeah. And whether our time in the 60s and 70s, the greatest entertainers on the football field or whether singers, compared to today, they're earning peanuts.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden we got these people in Parliament. They walk away. I don't know what I'm not too sure what they're trying to do to the country, but I believe that entertainers should be paid more than anybody. Bringing a bit of joy into somebody's life, whether it's on the football field or on the stage, or whether it's Morecambe and Wise, Eric Morecambe, Tommy Cooper, whoever, bringing a bit of sunshine. That'll do for me every day of the week. That keeps me going, actually, the fun side of life. And to put on a great song, I don't think there's anything better.
And also should have the image rights to your photographs and to your YouTube bits and pieces that we see, because when you're a player, you've had your time, but people are still looking and researching and seeing what you guys used to do, and I think it's criminal that in an age where football players are earning absolute fortunes these days, you guys didn't, but you could earn a few quid from images, but you actually can't use them images unless you buy those that were taken by a third party without your say so. Yeah. No, you bang on. I remember 10 years ago, something like that. I had my great friend in Stoke, a fella called Bob Williams, very, very talented, very talented. He comes from your neck of the woods, actually. He was a terrific fella and multi-talented, and I used to go around his house doing my writing. He used to do his painting, and he turned me and George Best in black and white into the front cover of a book, with the planet football, and it was on a different planet kind of thing. And we had to go to whoever owned the rights. I'm not sure, the biggest firm now, and they and we asked them if we could use it, and they charged me £800 to get a picture of myself with George Best, which was given to me in 1971 or 72 when George was on the field with me in Osgood, and a great photographer, Fleet Street photographer called Monty Fresco, was the main man in Fleet Street. He personally gave me the picture, and I was the only one that had it out of the newspaper. I was the only one that had a hard copy of it, although the Daily Mirror had it, and then the Daily Mirror passed it on, and then they bought all the rights to it. And I ended up having to pay £800 to get a picture of myself. Now, I find that a little bit,
can you imagine in New York, and they phoned Sinatra up and said, you got to pay to get a picture of yourself and on the, on stage at the Royal Festival or the Royal Albert or whatever. It's just ludicrous, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think it's absolutely incredible. But
it's disgusting, basically.
Yeah, it is. But there is going to be an official Alan Hudson calendar coming out Christmas, which will be fantastic. There's also, as well, Al, while we're talking about up-to-date stuff, your book, your latest book that's coming out, that's written by John Hellier, that's out on the 18th of August as well, isn't it?
Yes, I believe so. I think you're a little bit to do with this. You introduced me to these people, Lewis Griffiths and John. John is a great footballer, although he's very much into music. I didn't know when we first met that he was a big football fan, and because he's a very quiet man. Yeah. And Lewis and I were enjoying ourselves, and I mentioned one or two things to John, and he said, "Yeah, I'm a big, I watch you play," and blah blah blah. And we went on and on and on, and he started talking about music. So I said to him, "Oh yeah," and I said, "Well, who are you involved with?" And he went, "Well," he said, "I wrote the Ronnie Lane book," and I said, "Oh yeah," I said, "I went to see the Ronnie Lane show at the Albert Hall." When Stevie Marriott was on there, because I'm big fans of Stevie Marriott, and I took my cousin who sadly died. He wanted to go, so I took him, and he gave me the book of Ronnie Lane, and he also gave me the DVD of him producing the show on telly, comparing it and everything, and it was great. So we have now got on like a house on fire. We both love two things. We love football and we love music. So I always believe that them two things go together very well, music and football.
And of course,
well, the working man's ballet proves that.
Exactly. And of course, Captain Rum is the publisher, our mate Lewis Griffiths.
Well, yeah, he's quite something, yeah. Lewis. He's got his finger in many pies, and he's good at what he does. He's brilliant. He's great company. He's a great man and very positive. And I like him, and I've never regretted a day that I met him and John. They're just two lovely people.
And talking about great partnerships, because they are John Hellier and Lewis Griffiths, great partners, great people. Kiki D and Elton John. It was Elton John's first number one, and again, you're a massive fan of Elton, and you told us the tale of when your song come out, and you was telling us when you turned on the telly in a Merseyside hotel after a game against Everton, but he hadn't had a number one until with Kiki D. And
break
and he's got a film out now, Rocket Man. Have you been to see that yet, Al?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it. I wouldn't go and, to tell you the truth, I wouldn't go and see it because I don't think it's like the Freddie Mercury thing. I couldn't go and watch it. It's something that I don't think anyone could live up to.
Yeah.
I seen the George Best film, and I was choked that they didn't do that properly for someone, George Best or whatever. I mean, the fella looked nothing like George. George Best was not only one of the greatest players in the world, he was one of the best looking men in the world. He went out with Miss Wells. He had no problem in that kind of part of his life, and then they do a film of him and it was nothing like him. I don't know how they get away with making these movies. I really don't. So I suppose what I'm trying to say, Paul, I don't want to go and watch an Elton John film or a Freddie Mercury film and come away disappointed. It might be might be okay for the younger generation to watch that because they appreciate the music. But the only musical I've seen, and I think we spoke about this on your show, is I watched the ABBA film, and I just love their music, and there's only someone like her could come out on top of only do it, Mm-hmm. She's made so many films, serious actress, and she's a fantastic front for the film, and I thought it just brought the best out of ABBA, But I don't think I could watch them two films.
I must admit, I've been to see them both, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. Both very different. The Freddie Mercury film was pretty much about the song Bohemian Rhapsody, which is a favourite song of yours, isn't it?
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality. Open your eyes, look up to the skies and see. I'm just a poor boy, I need no sympathy, because I'm easy come, easy go, little high, little low. Any way the wind blows doesn't really matter to me. Mama just killed a man, put a gun against his head, pulled my trigger, now he's dead. Mama, life had just begun, but now I've gone and thrown it all away. Mama, didn't mean to make you cry. If I'm not back again this time, Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening me. Galileo, Galileo, Galileo Figaro. Magnifico! I'm just a poor boy and nobody loves me. He's just a poor boy from a poor family, sparing his life from this monstrosity. Easy come, easy go, will you let me go? Bismillah, no, we will not let you go. Let him go! Bismillah, we will not let you go. Let him go! Bismillah, we will not let you go. Let me go! We'll not let you go. Let me go! We'll not let you go. Let me go! Oh, mamma mia, mamma mia. Mamma mia, let me go. Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me. For me. For me.
Didn't Queen used to have an office, or there's some connection to the Colburn pub in London?
No, I believe I didn't go in there. I used to go to it's just around the corner from Earls Court, where my family used to work at Earls Court. And we went to loads of shows at Earls Court with all the, I see Elton. I went into the dressing room with Elton at Earls Court, and the Rod Stewarts. We see some fantastic shows there, but just on the corner, it's literally 100 yards from the front door of Earls Court, where there's a Colburn pub, and that's where Freddie Mercury used to become infamous. Yeah. Is probably the word. And I it is the most. How they come out with that song is just another one. It's another Beatles. A Day in the Life, or they come out. They sit down and do them songs, but it's all right writing a song. I mean, to write it in a different way where people look at it and they go, that wouldn't mean it. That would be nonsense unless someone like Freddie Mercury could do it. I mean, he was just some unbelievable talent, wasn't he? He was just, it's just mind-boggling, the fella, But you had to be really wayward to get away with that. And, you look at his life, we don't like to mention what he was, but I bet he was a wonderful bloke, as Elton was. And, if you thought that any person in this lifetime could actually get out and perform and do that song, that would be enough. Well, that would be enough for the rest of your life.
Watching both the films, and I think you're right, when you're in that environment, there was a lot of things taken and not just alcohol. It seemed an absolutely manic existence at times, and to think that some of the states that these rock stars, particularly Elton John and Freddie Mercury, to write songs or make music and go on and perform for most of the time that they were there, they must have been off the trolleys. It's phenomenal, really, what they actually did.
Well, yeah. I really think you got to be a little bit off the ball to be able to do that. Yeah. I read, I see a show one night with Elton John, and he talked about John Lennon, and he said he was sitting in the corner of a room one day in Los Angeles, and he said, I was off my nut. I was going downhill, and I had this show coming up. He said, but I was absolutely off my nut. He said, and all of a sudden, John Lennon walked in, and he said he weren't far behind me. And I said, look, he said, I'm doing a show. It's the big stadium there. There's a famous stadium in it, Yankee Stadium, is it? And he said, "Would you mind coming onto the stage with me?" So John Lennon went, "Oh, I don't know." He said, "I don't know if I can do that." And I don't know what it was. It might have been, I don't know whether it was Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And he said, I was on stage. There was about 120,000 people in the stadium, and he started singing Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And all of a sudden, John Lennon and Yoko and somebody else walked on stage on the side without Elton John knowing. He said, and the stadium erupted, and Elton John thought to himself, "What? I must have done something really special. I must have hit a note that I couldn't." He said, and I turned around and John Lennon walked on stage. He said, and for 10, 15 minutes, the place was in uproar.
Yeah.
He was like God. He said, and this was when we met in a room when we were both off our nut. So there's a lot to be said, you know. I'm not into drugs. I've never been into drugs, but what comes out of drugs is unbelievable. You know, it's as I say, I don't relate to it, but I do know that there must be something in it that comes up with something so out of this world. You know,
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Alan. I think I am the walrus come out of hallucinogenic kind of substances as well. Because you listen to some of the Beatles, because again, you're a big fan of the Beatles, and certainly when they went to see the old Dalai Lama, they did come back a little bit different than when they arrived in that part of the world, didn't they?
Well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, Lennon... funny enough, I left a couple of hours ago. A Scouser had come over to see me, and he just walked over to me and asked if I was who I was, and he started talking, and he started trying to sell Liverpool to me. I said, "You don't have to do that, mate. I'm a great lover of Bill Shankly, Liverpool Football Club, and John Lennon, so don't even go there, you know. Don't start selling Liverpool to me." But John Lennon... Christ almighty, the problem with John Lennon was, in the end, like you can imagine, is he took on the President of the United States, and he took on all the people that were causing wars, you know. That's why he wrote about the songs, you know, and all that. And I wouldn't say God forbid, but it rebounded on him.
Yeah.
And we all know that, in my eyes, that Nixon, you know, had him done. He tried to deport him for trying to stop the wars, but Lennon, you know, and the fella killed him, shot him, and he's never been seen. And but that was John Lennon, you know, the loving with Yoko. Who's going to stay in bed for 2 or 3 days with the missus and let the press in and all that, you know? I don't know. So you've got to be off the wall. Yeah. Basically, haven't you? You know, you lose. He lost all touch of reality, you know. But that is genius.
Yeah,
that's a genius. That is a genius of it. And it is very, very sad because, you know, I don't know for a fact, but all roads lead to that Nixon had him shot because he just wanted the world to be the right place, you know, and that was, you know, Imagine and everything else. That's what that's what John Lennon was all about.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger, or brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
And imagine, again, a favourite of yours, and if you send it back into a football sense, imagine what could have happened if we didn't have that training session with Don Revie and he didn't disregard you Maverick players. Imagine what England could have been had that situation not have happened.
Well, imagine imagine can relate to so many things. Because I always, having loved my writing, I always imagine that, had, England have had Brian Clough or Tony Waddington or Bill Nicholson or the Scottish Bill Shankly. If you can imagine, my life changed when, England changed from Alf Ramsey to Don Revie. Yeah. So if you can imagine, a top someone like Tony Waddington and getting the job, it's fantastic. But that's the way it was, and that was what that song was all about. It's not about imagining it; it's all about if only, really. Yeah. If only we had a world like that, but it's not going to be that way. And I had someone ask me again today, "You got 2 caps, yeah?" I said, "Yeah." Well, they mean absolutely nothing to me because number one, who give them to me, and number two, he gives the 2 caps to me for the wrong reasons.
Now, in the German game, what was the preparation? What was the last thing that Don Revie said to you to G you up to take on the world champions? Because I'm guessing you and Bally didn't need any G'ing up because you're the 2 greatest central midfield players in the country, and arguably your debut for England was the greatest debut that any Englishman has seen with a player wearing the 3 Lions shirt. But what did Don Revie say to you, them final words, that inspirational team talk as you was going onto that Wembley turf?
Well, I remember that the night before when it come out, that I never forget, because me and Malcolm MacDonald, he was playing for Arsenal, I was playing for Stoke, and he picked Malcolm, he picked me, and we were surrounded by the Fleet Street gang, and I remember I'd done an interview and said, at last I'm going to have the opportunity to show that I can play at this level. And I knew what it was all about. I knew that he picked me for all the wrong reasons. And then when we got ready, I played on the Saturday for Stoke, and I played really well again. I was really in great form. And as we were ready to walk out the door, all I was thinking about was I'm going to prove tonight that I can play at this level. I couldn't wait to get against Franz Beckenbauer, a great hero of mine. and I'm gonna prove my dad's words. You know, that one day you'll play at Wembley, but it won't be in an amateur cup final. And as the buzzer went and we got to the door, Don Revie said, "By the way, don't forget what the Germans did to us in the war." And I looked at Alan Ball and he looked at me, and you know, that was 1975. So you don't really need to tell Alan Ball that 9 years after he's already won the World Cup against Germans. It was just so pathetic. Why mention the war? It's a game of football. And I can remember walking into the tunnel after his words, and we closed the door, and me and Bawley were just smiling at each other, and Beckenbauer walked out, and I looked at him, and I thought for a split second, I'd love to be on playing with you tonight in them green shirt, because what a terrible way to speak to your players on the way out, you know. Fancy mentioning the war, you know. It is something that I don't know nothing about the war. I was too young. He might have had bad memories about it, but don't bring it into the England dressing room.
And when you think that it's the England dressing room, not a Sunday league or a group of people that are going to play a game in Germany, a load of lads that are on a stag do. You know, you're talking about this is the England football team going to play the world champions. It's absolutely laughable, really, isn't it? It's laughable.
Well,
it's embarrassing.
Paul, at the end of the day, it's something that can cause a riot.
Yeah.
As you say, if it was a Sunday morning and a pub team had been out all night and they said, look, they killed one of your family in the war. Mm-hmm. You know, that it could cause a riot. So it shouldn't be allowed. It shouldn't be allowed. People like him should not be allowed. Shouldn't be allowed to be in charge of the England team, because you don't do that. You don't do that. With everybody, you know, I don't know. We never spoke about the war in my prefab. My dad never spoke about the war to me. It wasn't a thing you spoke about. But then you get to a game at Wembley in your England debut, and he's talking about what happened in the war. I mean, that can't be right. Not for me. I can't even imagine sitting down with my granddaughter. She's 9 years of age, and saying, you know what? Don't speak to Germans, you know, because they're nasty people. They killed all our family in the war. I mean, God Almighty, what a way to bring people up. But they, as you say, they were his last words as we walked out of the dressing room.
Now, a big star, almost as big as you in them days, because he was probably in luck in as much as what you was, with David Essex, and again, another favourite of yours, I'm going to make you a star, and Tony Waddington did, although you was a star when you joined Tony. You went up from London to come up and see Tony Waddington, and he did make you the star. It was Tony that got you that England debut, and it was those 2 full seasons at Stoke City with Wad the God that made you the greatest midfield player in this country. And you did look a little bit like David Essex as well, Al.
Well, I don't really know. We were a little bit different. All I do know is he did have that bit of... If he'd have been a footballer, he could have played in our team because he had class, and you know... He used class. I mean, I see him on the TV not so long ago, and on a breakfast show. I mean, obviously he's aged and everything else, but you can't take away what he was. He wasn't. He never went into the music industry like most of these pop stars. He's done it in a totally different way, but there's no taking away. He had the looks. He had the style. He didn't have to make too many hit records, but David Essex, so, you know, he could be one of them you could sit down and have dinner with and just be enchanted by him, really. I think is a word. He was a terrific artist, and he walked the walk, and if he'd have walked into Stamford Bridge and come into our dressing room, I think he'd have felt at ease.
is it more, too much more than a pretty face? It's so strange the way he talks, it's a disgrace. Well, I know I've been out of style for a short while, but I don't care how cold you are, I'm coming home soon, I'm gonna make you a star, yeah. Well, he say he's into his music, but I don't believe it. He just doesn't seem to understand the rock media. Well, I know I'm not super hip, and I'm liable to take a slip, but I don't care how cold you are, I'm coming home soon, I'm gonna make you a star, yeah, yeah. We gonna make you a star. We gonna make you a star. Oh, is it more, too much more than a pretty face? I don't think so. It's so strange the way he's talking, it's a disgrace. Well, I know I've been out of style for a short while, but you see, I don't care how cold you are, I'm coming home soon, I'm gonna make you a star, yeah, 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 yeah. We gonna make you a star.
Didn't he also have a little bit of gypsy blood in him as well, from memory of those halcyon days?
Yes, I think he did. Yeah, he was a bit of a gyppo, Mr. Essex. I think he had in them days he had the earring that we wondered what was going on. Yeah, he was a bit of a gypsy, and he come from that kind of background. But what a fabulous, absolute fabulous talent, you know. And the songs you're talking about were fantastic.
And we've just had a message here from Terry Curran, another great player of the day. It was a disgrace when Alan performed as he did against Germany and just had 2 caps. And Charlie George, another Maverick player, one that Terry Curran played with at Derby, was only given 60 minutes, and Don Revie played Charlie George to fail as well. He said to Charlie, I'm going to play you because the press are on me back, so we'll play you, we'll get it out of the way, and you'll never play for me again. Now, Charlie George, you had a lot in common with Charlie, and your paths you collided, I guess, when Arsenal played Chelsea. But how great a player was Charlie George? I remember him scoring the winning goal for Arsenal in the 71 Cup final when they won the double. But he was every inch a great player, wasn't he, Charlie?
Well, strange thing is, he was a kind of kid that was the opposite of me. Yeah. He was he knew he was going to be a player when he was 13, 14, because I played against him. He played for Islington Schoolboys. I played for West London, and I played against him at Highbury one night. And he looked the finished article when he was 13, 14 years of age. He was a big boy, very strong, and I can remember him smashing the crossbar from about 30 yards. And I couldn't kick it 20 yards, and I thought, who the hell's this? It was great when the next time I went on the field against him at Highbury was 1970, and that's the year we won the cup, and we beat them 3-0. And it was, when you think that's like 7 years on, and 7 years was an unbelievable amount of time. Anything could have happened in their 7 years. I got injured 3 or 4 times. We could have finished my career even at that stage. But there I was playing against him in 1970, but walking out of Highbury, and he's on the other side of the white line. And I remembered all, playing there, and it was an unbelievable night that walked in, and I was reading Peter Crouch's book the other day. So first time we walked into Highbury, and they had underfloor heating and all that, and it was like the Royal Palladium of football in them days. Highbury, the greatest stadium, no doubt. They called Manchester United the Theatre of Dreams, but Arsenal was a stadium. It's just that they didn't have the space to build a bigger stadium. But going back to Charlie, I've never been on the same side of Charlie, but I really would have loved to play with him because he was as good as it gets. I remember when he went to Derby, and there was only 3 players in London that went up north for Watford and had an incredible impact. One, I went to Stoke. Tony Curry went from Watford to Sheffield United, and Charlie went from Arsenal to Derby County because Dave Mackay was there. And he made such an impact in the European Cup when they got there, and he was a phenomenal player. But again, he'd never seen in a World Cup, never seen in a European Championship. And you know what it does? Unlike me, Charlie went the other way a little bit and, took a different route, because people get disappointed in different ways. And when you think players like Charlie and Frank Worthington up front, and the likes of me and Curry with the influence of Alan Ball, if we'd had a real manager at that time and had a squad of them players, that's why they made the show the Mavericks. I mean, England, to think that we never qualified in 74, that the FA don't even see that there's something wrong, and that's crazy.
And he also lost a finger, didn't he, in a lawnmower accident, Charlie George?
He did, yeah. He's good with Charlie. Was good with his feet. He wouldn't have been much of a goalkeeper. If I'd have been his manager and he was a goalkeeper, I said, "What are you doing?" But no, I remember him doing that. But that was Charlie. That was Charlie doing something stupid. Who knows what he'd been doing that day?
Because when I said that battle that your careers collided, in them early 70 days, you and Arsenal were pretty much the kings of London, and you clashed a lot of times, didn't you?
Yeah, we were in the early 70s. Yeah. We were by far the best. As Tottenham had gone downhill because Bill Nicholson had left, and the double team had come to an end. Dave Mackay had gone, and Jimmy Greaves had gone. And that team had all got, like the Manchester United team of 1970. They all got too old, and we were the two teams on the block, really. When you think that West Ham had 3 World Cup winners in their team and never won the league, And they got to a couple of cup finals, but they'd never done it. The West Ham supporters used to say that we won the World Cup, and I said, well, you can't have won the World Cup because you never won the football league. So don't get excited about this. But in them days, it was us and Arsenal. And Arsenal had when they won the double under
Bertie Mee.
Under Don Howe, Don Howe. But it was Don Howe. The genius of Bertie Mee, the genius management, but the fantastic coaching of Don Howe was astonishing. They just had a fantastic team, and I think probably they were better than us. I have to say that we had a really we could have went on to be a great team at Chelsea, but the manager had different ideas.
And again, that's the essence of it. It's getting the right manager to identify the players, pick the players, and get the maximum out of the players. Tony Waddington done that with you, but rarely other managers did, and certainly in particular Terry Neal, when you went up to Arsenal, you had a lot of run-ins with Terry, and pretty much that saw the end of your career in England, and seen you bugger off over to Seattle, and us kids. I mean, I was 13, 14 at the time of the 1978 FA Cup final. I really didn't see you again. You left us.
Well, yeah, you know, it's something out of your. It's really when you pick up the paper today and you see what players are earning, and you know, you got to remember, Paul, there was no agents then and no one to. I mean, we were all right. Basically, we were all right. We were at home. I say that, and I've said in one of my books, the most comfortable I've ever been is with a ball at my feet in the middle of the football stadium with 50, 16,000 people. I mean, I've never been more comfortable. But off the field, you know, we had a problem because we were dealing with people that were trying to change us when we didn't need changing, you know. We I mean, if we'd have been Dutch or German or Spanish, I think we'd have had a far superior life, you know.
And you did, although you only got the 2 England caps, you did have a conversation. Again, it was almost like Carry On England in the 70s. You could have wrote a comedy script around the management, and it literally, I mean, it was like Sending in the Clowns, because when Ron Greenwood had the job, he phoned you up while you was in the pub one night. One of the players had pulled out and wanted to see if you were all right to play against Brazil in a couple of days' time, didn't he?
Well, that's right. I mean, I was having a bad time at Arsenal, and I can remember, I wouldn't say I wasn't good enough to get in the Arsenal team. I was just about good enough, but I wasn't nowhere near the form that I was at Stoke, and I felt I just weren't fit, you know. And all of a sudden, I was in the pub on a Sunday night, and I'd played for Arsenal on the. And I know we played at Liverpool. I never forget we played at Liverpool in the League Cup semi-final. It was the same year as we reached. So it must have been '78, and we got knocked out by Liverpool. We should have actually knocked them out. We were the better side, and Ron Greenwood was on the bus with us coming home, and I wonder what he was doing there. And then I don't know, I couldn't tell you how long later, but I was in a pub on a Sunday night in my local pub. There's a lovely pub in where Marino's got a house now. They got all the flash houses around there. And the phone rang, and I was called over, and it was him on the phone, and he said, "Alan, I thought someone was trying to take the mickey out of me," and I had a go at him, you know. I said, "Excuse me, mate, don't do this to me." And it ended up that it was him, and he said, "You turn up tomorrow and you'll be playing against Brazil." And I went, "I don't think so." I said, "Because number one, you know, you never picked me in the first place, and number two, you know, it's Sunday night. Somebody's turned up this morning and they're not fit, and you want me to be a replacement." But I did show him the greatest respect by telling him that I had the greatest respect for him. But no, it's I weren't going to be a stand-in. Plus the fact I was not stupid enough to know that I wasn't playing well enough to play against Brazil. Had it been in 1975 when I played against the Germans, I might have had a different frame of mind and said, "Yeah, I'll be there," you know. But I wasn't happy, you know. But fair play to him. You know, the saddest thing, Paul, was some years later I went to West Ham when I was going over to see Harry Redknapp, and I walked in one day and Ron Greenwood standing there, and I went to explain to him the situation, and he wasn't very well. Yeah. He had dementia or something along them lines, and it was quite sad. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to have told him the reason why, you know. But that was that, but these things happen, don't they? You know, they're the kind of things that happen that couldn't happen today.
No,
you know, it couldn't happen today. You know.
But again, it's incredible because what you would see then in the paper is Alan Hudson turned down England and you didn't. It's like what people and what fans see that's written in the press, generally speaking, isn't what's happened in reality. And I suppose we're getting a little bit of that now with Gareth Bale. It's clear that Real Madrid want Gareth Bale out, so they're trying to blacken his name. They're trying everything to get rid of him, and people pick it up and actually believe the rubbish that's written. It's incredible.
Well, it's a different age. It's I think what happens today is they got a different, completely different mentality, because in our day, if somebody started, doing what the things we just been talking about, we were actually struggling, to pay our mortgage.
Yeah.
Now we're talking that. I've wrote something today about the Chinese are offering him £1 million a week.
Yeah.
Now, come on, it's that's like the whole of say the first division of all these great players that you and I have been talking about. Yeah. It's like 10 years of their week's wages, £100 million a week. So how do we know what goes through Gareth Bale's head? I don't know. I've met him once and I didn't really particularly like him. I think he was I'll email you something later on what happened, but I didn't particularly like him. I think he was so caught up in all the hype and all that. Well, we never got caught up in the hype. I never got caught up in the hype. It didn't bother me. Or the only thing that bothered me when I was a record signing in for £250,000, not talking about a week, or £1 million a week, £250,000 transfer fee. The only thing that bothered me was, trying to justify that for the man that bought me. And that was what I did. And thankfully.
But isn't it mad? And again, in that glorious decade, I always say it was the halcyon days of the golden decade of football, which was the 70s. But in February of that year, 1979, Trevor left Birmingham to go and play for Nottingham Forest. I've got to say, I think if Terry Curran would have stayed fit at Nottingham Forest and didn't leave and go to Derby, I don't think Cloughy would have ever signed Trevor Francis, because he loved Terry, but he just had a really, really bad injury like he did when he went to play at Everton in the 80s. But you look at that, in 79, it was the first £1 million player. Today or tomorrow or when it may be, Gareth Bale might be the first £1 million a week player. I think football has actually eaten itself through pure greed.
Well, yeah, I mean, I remember, as a kid, when Bill Nicholson refused to pay £100,000 for Jimmy Greaves, and he paid £99,999 from AC Milan. He refused to pay £100,000. Now, if that had been Jose Mourinho, he would have made sure that it was over £100,000, because it would have been a bigger fee and everything else. That's the way the game has changed. Yeah. Nicholson didn't want to be known for the first person to do that. Now, if that does happen, but as I wrote earlier on, do you want to earn £1 million a week in China, or do you want to get a decent wage playing in a great league with great players where you were brought up? I mean, I'd have thought that, I know he was at Southampton with Harry. I was with Harry the other week, and he said he had him there and everything else. He went to Tottenham. He started to do well at Tottenham. He's a tremendous, undoubted talent, unbelievable. But when you start wanting to go to China for that kind of money, then you've got something wrong, because you can have more money than memories.
Yeah.
Now, that don't work. For me, that don't work. How much money do these people want? I don't know. I don't know what you can actually... if I went to China and I played in China tomorrow, if I was at my peak when I was playing at Stoke, 24, and I went to China for £1 million a week, if I came off the field in China, I don't think I could enjoy myself as much as I did when I was playing well at Stoke, because it just doesn't seem real. You're playing football for all the wrong reasons. It's like watching a film of Michael Douglas in Wall Street. Where's this going to end?
Yeah.
£1 million a week. I remember when it first came up that someone signed for Barcelona, or was it Neymar saying for £250,000 a week? Now it's £1 million a week. Where's it going to end? And what does it actually mean? And what I could walk. As I said, I met him once. But if I met him again and he was earning that kind of money, I wouldn't really want to talk to him, because I think it's just fake. It really is fake. It's not real. It's just not the real world, is it? There's people out there. If I was on £1 million a week and signing charge, my first 2 weeks or month's wages, I would give to something to make the world a better place. But I wouldn't give it to some charity to Nick. I would help someone with a couple of, for my first month's £4 million. People don't win that in a lottery.
I know. It's absolutely incredible. But
it's scary. It's scary.
It's scary. It's obscene. It's incredible, and it's absolutely, utterly, and totally ridiculous.
Yeah. It's just it's like watching a sci-fi movie, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It don't make sense.
No, it doesn't, but as I say, you might as well go and play in the Sunday League for somebody rather than go and China. I mean, the only thing the Chinese are known for in sport is table tennis. They're decent at that. They've got no history in football. I understand what they're trying to do. I'm guessing they're trying to get the World Cup, and they're probably looking at players like Bale and like these top players to go over there, like what the Americans did with Beckham and what the Americans did many, many years ago with Pele. I kind of get that, but I can't respect any player that goes and sells out to the Chinese and plays in a Mickey Mouse league over there. I think it's absolutely ridiculous when you can still cut it in the Premier League. But there you go.
No, it's just I can only imagine sitting around having a few drinks with 3 or 4 people, intelligent people, and discussing it, and you don't come to any. You would never come to any conclusion. It's just out of, as I say, if I love Bobby Moore and I love George Best, so they were 2 of the greatest players and people I ever met, and they have never earned anything like they should have earned. But if I bumped in as Gareth Bale, I'd say, well, who the hell do you think you are, earning £1 million a week? Do you actually believe you're worth that?
Yeah.
And he's not. Nobody, what we're worth, I don't really know, but I do know one thing: £1 million a week. If I went to watch him play, I'd want him to do something to justify £1 million a week, and I don't think he could do that.
No, I don't. And talking about Sunday football that I just did, you're off to not a Sunday football club, but a Saturday in October, on the 4th of October. You're off Kent way, aren't you?
I am. Back to Kent. I was with Kelly Maloney last week on his radio show, and he's it was great to see him, and he's going to give me a plug. Don't ask me the name of the place where I'm going because it slipped my mind, but I'm down in Kent. It's for a great cause, and I look forward to going down that part of the world. Then I'm going to see Gillingham play the following day. And I would imagine if they let me go in the dressing room, I'd ask all them players what they'd like, if they would like to earn £1 million a week. It's Gillingham.
Yeah.
It's laughable, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It really is laughable.
It is. You could probably buy half of Kent for £1 million, or certainly buy Gillingham, couldn't you?
No, you'll buy for £1 million a week. You'll buy Kent. Not a problem. It's too ridiculous for words, and I don't find it even funny. I just think it's disgusting, and when there's, I don't know, it's just too ridiculous for words.
Yeah,
you don't know what bracket to put in.
And people can follow you out on your usual, on your official Twitter and Facebook at Alan Hudson _10. Blimey, there's a bit of a stutter there, _10. And on your official Facebook page, which is Alan Hudson. And you can look at your daily blogs, because you're forever writing. You've always got books. There's loads of things going on in the background. And I want to get you and Terry Curran on a world tour as well, Tale of Two Mavericks. I think we'll have a great laugh with that. Some of the stories that you pair of boys have got are absolutely famous.
We can ask Gary Bowler to put the week's wages up, and me and Terry can go round. You and Terry go round the world. Take John Elliott and Lewis with us. We go round the world for a week's wages.
Well, Chris has just said, "Can I come as well?"
Of course he can. Someone's got to do the sound.
On that note, we're going to go out with I'm Not In Love 10cc. Again, another favourite of yours, Al, and another song from your romantic and genius side. So thanks very much, mate. Till next time, those were the days, my friend.
Cheers, pal. All the best.
Cheers, Al.
Good luck, mate.
Ta-ra, Mucka.
Bye, mate.
Bye-bye.
So don't forget it. It's just a silly phase I'm going through. And just because I call you up, don't get me wrong, don't think you got it made. I'm not in love, no, no. But then again, that doesn't mean you mean that much to me. So if I call you, don't make a fuss. Don't tell your friends about the two of us. I'm not in love, no, no. just a silly phase I'm going through. Just because I call you up, don't get me wrong, don't think you got it made. I'm not in love, I'm not in love.
Tired of ads barging into your favorite news podcasts? Good news. Ad-free listening is available on Amazon Music for all the music plus top podcasts included with your Prime membership. Stay up to date on everything newsworthy by downloading the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/news ad free. That's amazon.com/news ad free to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.